We'll call the meeting to order. We look at the minutes of the February meeting that we got sent yesterday. And I have a motion to accept,
I
please.
make a motion.
Second?
I do.
Any corrections, additions? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Susan. Good job. And we have the transcripts from the January and December meetings that we will use instead of the minutes. We received those before. So let's do the December one first. Katie's not, just dawned on me, Katie's not here.
Yeah, because the vans aren't starting till 10. She would have had no way to get here.
That's right. Okay, sorry, I just realized that Katie wasn't sitting there transcribing. She does such a wonderful job. So the December transcript, can I have a motion to accept?
I make a motion.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And this is the 14th, isn't it? And then we also have the January transcript. All the, motion please to accept?
To adopt it. Yeah.
Cliff did. And second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So accepted. Thank you. I think we're up to date now.
Finally.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Moving right on to the gift fund. We have the latest statement from the gift fund. Good job. We had just $100 for the Friends programming. I wanted to ask about that. What kind of arrangement do we have with the Friends, where we don't have the Cultural Council anymore this year? What kind of arrangements do we have with the Friends for their programs?
I don't know that we've decided, so I don't know if we want to, continue to pay a portion, or,
Have you made an arrangement with the Friends? You haven't talked to them, so I was
No.
wondering about the $100. How much the program was. Was that half the program
I believe it was for the January one.
for the January program? So you don't know about the February one. Have you gotten a statement for the February program?
Off the top of my head, I'm not sure. I don't recall seeing one, but I'm not positive.
That was Dolly Madison, was February. So,
Which I heard was really good.
She was
so.
fantastic, yes, it was very, very good. So, hey, why don't you check on that and we'll see, because when we had the Cultural Council, that was different. They paid for part of it and then the Friends and the COA split the remainder. Now, the whole cost is on the Friends and maybe the COA, I don't know. I think, you wanna, Susan, address that?
I don't want to address it from the point of view of the Friends. I want to address it from the point of view from my position as a board member. And
Yes.
Louise and Barbara and I met and talked about the gift fund and the use of the gift
Yes.
funds. I wrote that up just yesterday for Barbara and Louise to see, so you haven't seen it. And it will go to you, Sharon, and I think we probably have to run it by, I don't know whether it's the town treasurer or someone else, so that it goes through the proper channels before we
Yes.
turn it into a policy for the board to consider. But one of the things that we talked about was the size of this fund and the fact that it is so large, and now I see that it's $45,000, which is a lot of money. My expectation would be that if I were to make a donation to the senior center, the COA or whatever, is that those funds would be used at some timely timely manner. The other thing that's in there is, I believe that I was told that we keep a cushion in there, should the state formula grant dry up and we don't have money to pay the part-time people that are now paid out of the formula grant. That's kind of an administrative expense that I think, and I think Barbara and Louise and I were in agreement on that, is really should be handled by some kind of government agency or other, meaning the formula grant or the town or something else, and not on donations that are given to the senior center, that administrative expenditures aren't appropriate to that fund. So to circle back to where we started on this is, if the cultural grant is not available, that may be an appropriate use of the gift fund to pay that other portion that doesn't come from the Friends. I mean, I think that an arrangement needs to be made for this coming year on how those things are going to be paid for, and it's right down there, so that's where I come from on that.
Oh, thank you.
I was just wondering if there was any limit on or guidelines on the amount of money that's paid for entertainment.
Well, see, that's what I don't know. I mean, we don't know, and Sharon has been working with the representative from the Friends.
Mm-hmm.
They've been working together on that. Yes, Shashi.
Two questions. One is, why is the cultural grant no longer available?
The way that the Cultural Arts Council accepts their grants has changed. We used to be able to submit one request for, all the programs over the course of the year. Last year they changed it. Now everything is electronic and it goes directly to the Massachusetts Cultural Council as opposed to our local Cultural Council, and then our local Cultural Council gets the information that's been submitted. So we had a lovely computer glitch this past year, and so it was due back in October. Only one of the programs ended up going through. We had put through for 6, because usually that's what we put in for. Not all the programs have ever been covered by the Cultural Arts Council. It's usually, half of whatever the programs are. So Letty from the Friends Group spoke to the Cultural Arts Council, the local one, to see if there was anything they could do to try to, show that we had additional programs that we wanted to get funding for. So they talked to folks on the state level, and they said that there was nothing they could do. But the local Cultural Council said that they would still see what they could do as far as helping with this year. But the December program was approved, because that was the only one that went through. So for some reason, only the last program was accepted that was in the computer, online application.
The December program, is that the one that I asked you about that was in the paper?
Yeah,
So is this a temporary thing? I mean, in future years, hopefully this
yeah, hopefully
split for
the,
Kremlin will go away?
correct. But even then, we never put in for all of the Friends programming. We usually, sit down and figure out like the most expensive programs that they're going with for the year and ask for the Cultural Arts Council to pay a portion of that. So at least in the past, the Friends have paid for some of the months, completely on their own, and the COA has only paid for the portion for the more expensive programs that the Cultural Arts Council was paying a portion, the Friends was paying a portion, and the COA was paying a portion. So that, we could show the Cultural Arts Council that it was, a joint effort between everyone.
There was a time though when you put in for all 12 months, several years ago. I remember that, we used to put in for every month and then just to see what they accepted and didn't accept.
And typically it was, they would do about half,
Yeah.
because they could never, obviously
lot
it'd be
of-
nice to do the whole thing, but they
A lot of
usually-
organizations reply to them
Yeah.
for money, so they have to spread it out, which is good, but,
Another question.
yes.
Susan made an interesting point about having a cushion in the gift account. Is there a cushion for the revolving account?
No,
Do we spend it down to zero?
the revolve,
Well, we're gonna get to the revolving account, because I had some questions
Oh,
about
okay.
that as well, yeah. That's on the, when we get down to the revolving
Sure.
account, we'll talk about that, yeah. So, okay, well, yeah, if you find out about what the kind of arrangement to make, and to see how much that, the Friends and the COA to share this and see how much they are coming up. No, I agree with you that there should be probably a cap on how much, especially since the Cultural Art Council is not funding anything this year.
well, the December program, but
Yeah, I mean, but for the
other than
rest,
the December program.
yeah. So, so I think that,
So this $100 was half of the cost?
I don't know. I just saw it on there and was
Yeah,
wondering
right.
what it was.
Yeah, I was too, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, any more questions about the gift account?
Yes,
Yes.
question. Where are we with regard to coming up with the guidelines? I thought we was going to be a committee or something like that.
Yes.
We are, we need to go through Sharon and then through the town people to make sure that what we've come up for the guidelines are acceptable and legal and all of the rest.
Yeah, probably by next month,
Well,
maybe
it
we
should
could have
be,
a,
yeah.
We have a rough draft, the committee members, so we're still working on trying to get that,
And in the meantime, I did meet with Mary Thompson to ask her some of the questions that had been brought up last time. And there really aren't any guidelines in place, so I think she would probably just review, like you said, whatever's been submitted, and then I don't know if she'd have to run it by the town manager, and I don't know how that would work, but
that's
so
it,
she's
yeah, we
aware
need to-
that,
yeah.
some type of policy's trying to be
Where is
developed.
this money held? Is it in
Yeah.
a separate account, or is it just within the general account, or, do we get any interest on it, or anything like that?
No,
There's $45,000 just sitting there now with,
We could get some good interest on it.
with nothing, and, granted, it doesn't grow fast, but, there is some growth in there, so there should be something. I mean, if there's going to be an emergency fund, if it's not spent as it comes in, that it's in some kind of account. Now, how that would work, I don't know, but.
Yeah, Mary Thompson could probably
Yeah.
tell us give us some more information on that, to see where we are with that, So that's the piece that we have to put together before we can we got part of the report done, but we haven't got the other, second piece of it. So, anything else for the gift fund? Okay. Move along to the formula grant. We have the new thing here which was $9.70 a senior, instead of $11, we got cut back. We were hoping to get $1 more, and instead we got a discount of 30 cents. So, we have the new breakdown, and we have the salaries. What is other expenses?
those that are not salaries. So, just so you can see.
I misread it, I misread the whole thing.
You know, the
This is a
salaries,
this
and
is a
then-
compilation of the whole thing.
Correct, yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, I misread it. I thought that was a separate line item.
No, so, just so
Okay,
you can see
yes.
the breakdown, into two, what's going towards staffing and what's not. And then the
Mm-hmm. Right.
breakdown of what's not follows.
Okay,
So that was just the layout that we've been using that seemed to be easier to just kind of look. But I could always move it down to the bottom if that's easier to follow too.
so,
Question?
yes,
You have a line item here that says office supplies and equipment. The equipment includes the public access computers, the coffee equipment, the stuff. Is that all included in there?
No, that's basically just the line item that, the classification that EOEA uses for, when we plug in our budget, they have, what typical things the formula is spent on, and that's just how they phrase it, office supplies and equipment. So, for example, right now, when we were working on, our CPR cards that all the drivers got, we usually laminate those. And our laminator predates this building. We had it over at Parker Road. And it heated up and something blew up and the whole thing, it was like a burnt toaster. So right now we're just using Selco's laminator, but we may choose to replace the laminator. If we did, we could do it through the formula because it would be technically considered equipment. We wouldn't have to go out, and do anything special or notify EOEA that we'd like to get a laminator, could we pay for it out of the formula? Because it falls under, just like transportation, if you recall last year, we were paying for some of the route match subscription through the formula, and it was just under the broad category of transportation. So if we had a driver training or something that we wanted to pay for that didn't fit under our regular line items through the town, we could have paid through that, again, through the formula without having to do
See,
something extra for the state.
Actually, 1,087 is not a very big amount.
No.
So, because we have another laminator in the kitchen that's used to seal the meals. We have the public access computers that need virus software, which we probably have to pay for. I don't know what they use, but things like that, projectors, the sound equipment, the repairs to that. So this is not a very big amount. And what happens if we overrun?
Well, in the past, the way we've always come up with that number is just, and notice it's an odd number. Usually that's how we've made up for whatever odd amount, we end up with after paying for salaries. So usually we do run over and we blend it with our office supply line item from the town. As you may recall, Louise had made a pitch to the town manager when it was Dan Morgado to just move all of our office supply, expenditures just to the town to free up the formula, for other purposes. And, he didn't want to do that. So when we go through this budget process, it'll be interesting to see what our current town manager may want to do because, this was done still working with Dan Morgado because he was the one who signed off on this particular budget, back when we didn't know what we were getting, but as far as the breakdown, a general breakdown. So Kevin may agree that we should just have one office supply line item and that's through the town. So it'll be interesting when we work on our FY19 formula, what happens with that number. But in the past, it's always just been, if we run over an office supplies for the town, we can pull it from the formula. And we have that flexibility. So no, it's not a big number, but it never has been, because it's always just kind of been whatever, I'd hate to say leftover funds, but
But,
But that's what it is.
right, because,
Funds in excess of wages.
right, because, and usually it ends up being, we might have a little less than that or a little more, because the volunteer recognition might run under or above, because again, we're just projecting when we put this together. Same thing with conferences, we might spend more than that, we might spend less. And obviously this year with Kathy, we might run under that, or we might run more. So again, we have that flexibility between those items. So that's why at the end, we'll see what we proposed and what we actually spent on those items.
speaking of Kathy, it just made me think, does this cover her meetings with us and the staff?
Yeah,
Oh, okay, so
Yeah.
that's what she's getting for
that's what
both-
she's been
both-
averaging.
Both workshops,
Yeah.
okay. I
Some
wasn't
months
sure,
it's been less, some months it's been more, but that,
March will be much less.
Yeah.
We had to cancel both the workshops in March, so.
but yeah, I just took an average of, what we had done with, when we were trying to put this together, and what she had told us, you know, she thought she would be looking at for a monthly, based on what she did with Framingham.
Have you scheduled the next meeting with her?
No, not yet. The way we left it on Monday, was I would get back to her after we talked today, and we'd give her some dates. And then, you know, the staff, we know we're gonna be looking at Tuesdays, because that's the only date that all the staff is on board. So, I told her, you know, I would get back to her after we met today and say, you know, these are the Tuesdays that work for the staff, and here's some dates that work for the board, and see what she has.
Okay, good. Okay, anything else on the formula? No, okay. Now we move to the revolving account. Okay. This is formula, I'm on the wrong, this is the green one is the revolving. Okay. You had a question, Shashi, about revolving,
Well,
yes.
Basically, I wanted to know if there was a cushion, the minimum that we'd go down to before we run out of money, and then we have to depend upon the gift fund.
As far as a cushion in the revolving, no. The only thing that, this account has is the opposite. We have a cap on how much we can have in here. I should say how much can come in over the course of a year.
How much is that?
75,000.
75,000.
So if we were to take in more than 75,000 over the course of the year, we would have to go back to town meeting, and town meeting would have to vote to accept that money over what has been allotted for the revolving for the year. So the revolving has to be voted on at town meeting every year. And at that time, town meeting members are given the balance of what we have in the account and what's been expended over the last fiscal year. And we had started off, I forget if it was 25,000 or 50,000. But again, at the time, Dan Morgado was the town manager, and one year we had gotten very close to bringing in our cap between the DOT grants and everything else. And he had said, you know, I think we should bump this account up to 75,000 just to, you know, cover your bases. So, town meeting voted that year to increase it to 75 for the cap.
Could you just clarify, is the revolving account, is that expenditures exclusive of drivers' wages that it costs to operate the vans?
It's exclusive to the COA van, to COA 98.
Okay,
So no funds from here are used on the RTA vans.
Okay.
So it's van-based, not driver-based.
Okay.
So it could cover drivers, it can cover repairs, it can cover driver trainings. But it's strictly, it can, the match for the DOT grant can come out of here. The previous two times, that's where
Okay.
we pulled the match from the revolving, and when the DOT wanted to see that because unfortunately you can't, you know, say to the state, well, we're gonna raise the money for our match. They wanna know that you have the match. And so with the revolving being what it is, that's the previous two times that hasn't been a problem. You know, accounting's been able to just show them, you know, well, this is what the balance is in the revolving account, we have the match. And that's still the case now. Even if we go for two vans, we would have the 20% match for both of those.
Excuse me, I don't have the figures in front of me. How does this compare with last year?
It's lower because we still haven't gotten the DOT fund
Okay.
in yet. We did ask, since our last meeting, Cynthia and I did get in touch with the folks at DOT, and they still seem to be just as up in the air as everybody else. So they said they were assuming the application process for this year will be what it was last year, but they still haven't gotten any dates from the federal government as far as when funds will be released to start RFPs for operating for vans. They haven't heard anything. As far as putting in for our reimbursements, we can start that. So Cynthia and I are working on those reports, so that we can start getting money in. So as, it was in, described in Katie's, transcription from last month and probably in Susan's minutes too. In the past, the DOT has usually just like to give us one lump sum at the end of the year or, two lump sums, very similar to the formula. Right now, they're saying, just start giving us, what you need to be reimbursed and we'll try to start sending it out. So we should be able to have it start coming in as opposed to having to wait. But that's what they're saying. Again, they're still at the mercy of the federal government, so we may still be getting one lump sum, sometime over the summer. I mean, it's unfortunate. They really are at the mercy of others as well. They don't really know.
That's true, yeah.
As long as we eventually get it.
Right.
I'm just looking back at the last year, at March of last year, we had 114,000.
That's what I was wondering.
That's the highest I can find in the papers I have, so we're down,
And that probably is the highest it was. I don't
Yeah.
remember it.
Yeah.
And I remember at the time, once we hit a six figure, that made, again, Dan Morgado very nervous because he wondered if the revolving account should be bumped up again from 75,000 to 100, but yet it wasn't that we had 75,000 coming in.
no, it was just that accumulation.
Right.
But that's what I think, because we'll have, if we get a second van, when we get a
When.
second van, sorry about that, when we get, we will have enough money in the revolving account to keep it on the road.
And
I think so.
I don't believe, since our last meeting, I don't believe we had received the title from the DOT yet, had we? I don't remember talking about that last month. For
don't know
our
what you're
current
talking-
van? Okay,
I don't
so,
know.
we can't apply for a replacement van until the DOT feels that our existing van has reached its useful life, which is usually 7 years or, I think it's 100,000 miles.
Well, that's what
Might be
Kevin said.
Yes,
He said that it was not ready to
correct.
be replaced yet. This is
And-
the one we have now, it
and-
still has some life left in it.
But the DOT decided that's not the case.
Oh,
So the DOT did send us the title and said, you're free to replace this vehicle. It's reached its useful life. And so we do have the title, which you would need to be able
Right.
to show that you need a replacement. But in the meantime, we can keep the vehicle if we want. It's up to us
well,
what we wanna
Kevin
do.
was talking about putting it through the town, to replace it through the town, instead of going through the DOT. That we go through the DOT with the fourth van, the second of our own. And because he said about another year, we will put in for a replacement for this one through the town, which makes more sense, and that way, we don't need to worry about that, we can use the DOT for the fourth van,
Yeah.
which is in June, is that deadline still in June?
They don't know. They're assuming so. But again, they said that they haven't received any hard and fast dates. So,
Could we start writing up some kind of whatever, so that it'll be all ready whenever they say the deadline is?
well, again, they're all online too. So, at least in the previous years for the operating, it does change a little bit, the questions and some of the things that they ask. So, I mean, we could look at, I know Millbury got a replacement van last year. I could, ask Millbury, what they had to submit, seeing it's been a while,
Well,
since
that's
we've
what I
done
mean,
ours, just to get an
kinda
idea.
Get the information that we need, so that when it comes,
know-
we'll have it handy, we just have to put it into the computer and it'll be all ready to go.
But obviously, getting the title from them on this is a big deal, cause it
Well, that's
shows
it.
we
That's
have a
it.
van that needs to be replaced. We have the money in the
right,
revolving
we
that we
have
can
it.
show.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can find out from Millbury, and at least that might give us an idea, cause even if it changes, we know it won't change that
That
much,
much, no.
at least I wouldn't think.
You wouldn't think so, you'd hope
You don't
not.
know.
You never know, that's true, you never know.
But yeah, I can do that, I can see what Millbury
I
ended up submitting last year.
Yeah, Shashi.
Sharon, I don't understand the issue of getting the title with the replacement. Because I think of me as if I were to buy a car and get a car loan, I don't get the title until the loan is paid off. So what is the real issue here? Why is title a big deal?
Because if you were
The
interested,
registration says how old the car is.
if you're interested in getting a replacement vehicle, the DOT is not going to look at the capital request if they still have the title on your existing van, because as Louise said, they'll
That's the
say,
part I don't understand. Why is it they have the title to it? Did they pay for it?
right, cause they paid the 80% of it,
Okay.
or it's a matching, so
So is it the 20% that we're going to raise our own money for?
well, we'll be required to pay a 20, and again, we don't know if that figure, or that ratio will change, we're assuming it'll still be 20%.
I can see Susan
But-
smiling, why don't you speak up?
No, I'm following, I think it's getting made clear, I think one of the things, and that with the Friends report, if we have a chance to get to it today, would be that all of these possibilities, you know, the Friends would be looking for an outline of the statements and how we're going to proceed, and part of that would be, do funds need to be raised? Part of that could be, are there funds that are available from the revolving account to pay for that? That's something I hadn't heard
Yeah,
before in our discussions about a replacement van or a new van, you know, additional van or whatever. So I think these are things that need to be discussed and brought up, and Sharon is the knowledgeable person who can outline the possibilities that there are so that we can make effective decisions about how we proceed, both for replacement and for an additional van.
Good. So, anything else on the revolving account?
No.
Go ahead, Joshie.
Well, I was wondering, we've got $45,000 sitting in the gift account.
Well,
Could
that's
we
the
use
other
any of
thing.
Yeah.
That's the other possibility, another possibility, some of it.
yeah, you could.
Okay.
Yeah,
So, you know.
the DOT won't be fussy as long as we can show we have the money. They won't care if it's from the Friends, if it's from the gift account.
So
The only thing, I don't know if they allow formula funds. I think that might be,
We don't have formula funds anyhow.
no, but I don't think they
We don't have
allow
that,
that.
no.
There's not sufficient formula
But we do
funds.
have the revolving account, which could be,
And I would rather have the town help us
I would too. So we'll see what,
before we rush to take money out of the gift account or something like that.
we'll see
I
what, see
would
what they
rather
can,
apply
see what
to
they
town
they
and
would do,
hope that
yeah.
Well, it depends on your perception, or whoever's perception of the urgency of our need. If the need is really urgent, I think we should just spend the money. If it's not, and we can get by while we go through the, optimum place to get the money
right,
from.
Right, well, see, I would rather try going through the town.
Of course.
If the town fathers think that we have money hidden away in our coffers that we can grab at so easily, I don't think they're gonna be in a rush to help us with some other things.
But to apply for the town is in October, that they do the, I never can remember that, capital
The capital funds.
Yeah.
capital funds. So we
That's
have to
another
wait until
problem, yeah.
October to apply for anything, along with every other department that applies for capital funds, so it's a kind of a,
So that's what the
If they-
the different departments that have vehicles or equipment apply for, because that doesn't go into line items. So if the fire department needs a new fire truck, if the police department needs new cruisers, that all goes under the capital.
so we
Fund
would go
requests.
into that whole,
So if
mixture.
this van actually broke down right now, could we apply to DOT or something?
Well,
Would they
that's
give us a
different,
replacement?
because
No.
they have a fund, the town, that will pay for that, and that's what Kevin had said about the van we have. He said it has another year, and then by the miles and all that other stuff, the town could replace it. So I think if it broke down, there are the mechanisms in place that you could either
That's
fix
what I
it
was
or
wondering,
something
yeah.
like that, you know.
So we're covered,
Well,
essentially.
we hope.
Well, it all depends.
Yeah.
If the van were to be totaled in an accident, and we're without a van, what do we do next?
Well, we have
Oh,
insurance.
sure.
Of course, but
But
that's.
So then we
the
would have
insurance-
to, then we'd have
Insurance will
to,
allow us to get something temporarily until this thing is replaced?
I would think so. I would think we would have to get something.
I
Susan?
think that all these things, if Sharon could write them out, because I think you've referred to, it's maybe an 18-month process from start to finish with the DOT grant.
Yeah.
What are the different options, what are the timeframes of those options, you know, where does the money come from, you know, 100% of it, 80% of it,
What's-
20%? If we have all of that in front of us, rather than just speculating with scant information, which I think we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants a little bit here. I think we could make a better plan for how we're going to go about it, and, you know, what do we do if? What is our contingency plan for the van is gone? Because even with insurance, that's not going to do much for us, when they're not gonna give us a new van for that, so I think that's the point that we're at now.
We did briefly, when we had that issue with it in the summer, with the transmission, and we didn't know how long it was gonna take to fix. We did look into renting a vehicle. There is a place down on the Cape that has vans like ours that they rent out. And it's just like renting a car, you know, there'd be a cost per day. And I don't know if the insurance would cover that, but thankfully the transmission was fixed very quickly and it ended up not being an issue. But because we use Rands, because Rands has, you know, does the repairs for the town, it was something Rands couldn't do, that so they had to send out the transmission to another party, and they said they weren't sure how long they would take. So when it went into, it was kind of out of our hands. We just wanted to have a plan B, just in case, you know, we weren't gonna get the van back in a timely manner. But thankfully, the folks that did the transmission were great. I mean, they were able to turn it around in a matter of days, whereas the RTA van, it broke down the same week in July, and we didn't get it back for several months, and it was the same transmission issue in both vehicles. But
You know, I wonder if we should not call them buses instead of vans. You know, when you think
I
of
know.
it, I mean, we like the configuration of a bus, where you walk in the door and there's an aisle and there's seats on both sides. Whereas vans sometimes are long seats, you know, and
People to get in. Yeah.
people are difficult to get in. So we're really looking for a bus type of, you know, instead of a van to.
yeah, the RTA has changed the terminology here and there, so they pretty much, unless they've really have some hard and fast language change that they've made that I'm not aware of, they would interchange the term minibus
Well,
with
that, yeah.
paratransit van interchangeably. So one being a bus, one being a van, but they meant the same thing. But I know they're working on new publicity materials to send out to the RTA used to do a very comprehensive folder for riders when we had a new rider, and they found, you know, people got it in the mail and said, oh, this is great, and then never looked at it. So so the RTA is working on trying to make, you know, more portable brochures that you could tuck and throw in your purse, or, you know, fold in your coat pocket, as to, you know, what do you do if your appointment's running late, who do you call, and trying to make it universal so all the communities, the riders are using the same rules, and then they just change it, the heading for each town. So Cynthia's been working with the folks at the Central Mass Regional Planning Commission on that project, and it's just a brochure versus a big folder. But I'd be curious to see what they refer to them as in that brochure.
Yeah.
Are they calling them minibuses or are they calling them paratransit vans?
Yeah,
Minibus, I think people understand what a minibus is.
well, that's it, yeah.
A paratransit van, even if they feel that that's a more accurate term, I think lay people typically don't know, well, what does that mean?
Yes,
What's a paratransit
yeah.
van?
We're looking for a mini bus, I think, basically
Right.
is what we're looking for, so. But, as they say, what's in a name, right?
Well,
Yes,
it's not so much a name, but perhaps we should come up with a list of requirements for our buses. Like Sharon said, yes, there are people on the Cape that rent similar things, but we need a wheelchair to be stowed, we need enough room for X number of wheelchairs, we need the mechanism to, the grab bars and this and that. All those things, we can't just go out and rent something without knowing what our requirements are.
Well, the big thing is that they have to meet the ADA requirements. So for people with low vision, there has to be contrast, like you said, on the bars that you grab, and the seats have to have a clear, they're usually outlined with a bright or fluorescent color. So for people with low vision that they can see. So they are ADA, I guess you could say qualified rental vans. Because the RTA is the one who referred us to them. Because they didn't have any loaners that they could give us,
But
given the
ADA
circumstances.
must have different standards for different purposes, right? And the number of, there are a number of passengers, the kind of passengers we transport, the kind of locations we service, all that, they must have different categories.
Well, when it comes to transportation, they have a certain set of guidelines as far as,
For all of them?
for the vehicles, yeah.
Okay.
The steps have to be a certain height, they have to, again, have certain markings. The wheelchair lift has to be able to accommodate a certain weight.
So what you're saying is the outfit on the Cape has quote unquote ADA approved vans available
Yeah.
for us to rent, okay.
Yeah,
well, that's good, yeah, so now
Okay.
we know where we can,
Okay.
if
That's good
push
to know.
comes to shove, or
Yeah.
if we get into a problem, that.
so I hope you didn't jinx us by bringing up the van
No,
being totaled.
That's true, that's
But
true,
God
yeah.
forbid if it did happen, we do have alternatives we could look
Yeah,
at.
good. Okay, anything else about the revolving account? Okay, moving right along to the newsletter. How are we doing with the newsletter? Did you get your newsletter? Cliff still didn't get his
Still.
newsletter.
I double checked it because it is posted online.
Oh, it's online, yeah, I'm just
But
not
you're not
getting, I'm
getting-
not getting the email,
And that's
The
supposed to,
reminder with the link.
that's supposed to be happening automatically as soon as it gets, so that must be where the broken link is.
it worked for 1 month.
Is that yours?
Yeah,
Yes,
because
sorry.
it's supposed to, alright, because as soon as it gets posted,
Yeah,
then it's supposed to go out to the masses.
it did, it worked and then it wasn't working for a while and it worked for 1 month, that's like 2 or 3 months ago now.
Okay.
Yeah,
Alright, and as I reported last month, I know IT did have some issues with the website, but they had said that they had
Yeah,
corrected
the
them.
website's fine, it's just
But-
it's the email reminder.
So, alright, well,
okay, so that
I'll see
people
what's
can
going
get it on the website, which is good, that's.
But they,
Yeah,
but they're
yes.
supposed, but they're
You have to
supposed to
remember
get,
to go get it,
Right.
or
No, I know,
you're
it's
supposed
like,
to get an
when you get
alert.
the email, it's sort of tantamount to getting it in the mail, in your
Right.
mailbox, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's here, bingo.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Just
just
tap
push,
that and get it.
yeah,
Right.
good, yeah, so.
Alright, so it's posting okay, but, cause like I said, I checked as soon as it, it was supposed to be posted, I checked and it was on there,
Yeah,
but,
and I went back and it comes up, was it the Serve Civic something or other, I don't remember right now, but I went and searched back. I haven't gotten it for months.
alright.
Yeah. Well,
I'll see
we
what the
keep,
story
we keep
is.
trying,
Okay.
just,
Maybe I fell off the list.
Well, I know that, well, that's interesting that you said that. Because apparently if it tries to send, if it gets rejected for 3 consecutive months, the person's automatically deleted off the list. But you did get it, so it's not like your
I did get
address
it.
was bad,
Right.
you know?
Right.
But, I'll look into that too and see if for some reason,
Yeah.
You
And it's
got-
not that I'm not getting my email. I get way too much email.
as do most people.
As most of us do, you're right.
All right,
I know, yeah.
I'll check with them and see what could be going on there.
Okay,
Okay.
survey update.
I,
Here we go.
yeah. Unfortunately, with the weather, I haven't been able to touch base with CMAA. So I know I think I had mentioned last month that Ethan was getting ready to travel to Ireland for 10 days. So he was rushing to try to get everything done before he left, and had told me that you know, if things didn't happen before he left, I'd be dealing with his supervisor, which is Dr. Bob Dwyer over at CMAA. So Bob did email me at the end of last week just to confirm that, you know, he'll be covering and working with us once Ethan leaves. But I think Ethan is still here. I believe he's due to leave on Friday, because I know he was excited because he should be there for St. Patrick's Day, so he was looking forward to that. But so last we communicated, he was still trying to figure out the whole sample size issue. And that's where he was getting hung up. So that's what I'll have to check on, either with him or with Bob Dwyer at the Central Mass Agency on Aging, to see where they are with that.
He said he was hoping to have it finished before he left.
Yeah. Yeah, because he felt good with, because I think we're good with the survey itself. He likes the changes, and it seemed like you all liked the changes that he proposed, so I think that's done. Now we just have to figure out the sample size so that we can actually get it out.
And we don't have any quotes yet on how much it's gonna cost.
Again, well, I think we can, I still have to call Alpha Graphics, and I think your idea of checking with BNB is good too. But I think just using the newsletter printing, for example, we can probably get a very rough idea, because you figure, let's say, you know we have over 5,000 people between 50 and 59. We know we have over, 8,000 seniors. So if we say there's 13,000 people we're looking at total, say our sample size is 20%, we know that's still going to be less than the newsletter cost. And it's only 4 pages, versus 12. So I would think we could assume it'll be less than 1 month's printing
How
of the
much is
newsletter.
that?
The printing of the newsletter is about 1,200.
1,200.
Yeah. And that's for 12 pages
12
of
pages.
30,
So even
give or
if you-
take 3,800 copies.
So even if you're talking, say, 800, then how about the mailing, the postage?
Well, that part will be tricky, because we've got a few different ways we could go, because I don't know, I'll have to, again, that's something I'll have to ask Bob at CMAA. I don't know what their classification is for their bulk mailing rate. If we end up sending it, I would think we'd probably want to try to go through the Friends, because the Friends have a cheaper bulk mailing rate than the town. The town has a discounted governmental postage rate, but the Friends have the cheapest bulk mailing rate, being a 501c3. So even if we, paid the Friends, again, perhaps through the gift account or under, office supplies and equipment, under, the formula, depending on how much it was, and pay that to the Friends, that might be, cheaper in the long run.
Well, we're going to have, excuse me, the return envelopes as well, the postage, which is gonna be, we have 2 postages, one to mail the whole thing and then one for the return. So, was about 800 and something, I think, now for the newsletter to mail.
So would the returns have any special rate, or would they be the regular postal
I don't
rate?
know, I don't know how that goes.
In the past, they've been the return they've been first class returns.
That's what I was wondering.
If we run it through, in the past, we've run it through the town meter. I don't know, it might be something worth checking with the post office. When you get like those surveys and things from other places and it says, postage paid
Yeah.
by sender or whatever, they only pay for what gets sent out, like what people return. Once it
comes
goes
back,
through,
right.
then, so it might be worth looking into seeing if we can do that, because I think if we're gonna be sending out, let's just say 1,300 pieces or something like that, paying first class for all of that would add up really
Well,
fast.
That's what I was wondering, yeah.
So, but then we'd probably have to have the envelopes printed up through either B&B or Graphics, cause I'm sure that they've done that for other,
I'm sure so too, yeah.
and
you
CMA probably has too,
Can
actually.
you check on that
Yeah,
to see
That-
about
that's a
if we
good-
can
I don't
get,
understand what the option is to the reply rate. You're talking about, the other option be to send it out with a first class stamp on it already? Oh, no.
No,
Yeah.
that'd
No,
be-
no, you do the business reply and you only pay for what comes back. I think, I'm not sure, I think it's slightly higher than the first class rate, but you're only paying for what you get.
Right.
So,
yeah. But we'd have to
I
have,
don't know,
we'd have to have the envelopes printed as such, cause I know,
right, there's a,
yeah. So we'd have to check. I think probably the best place for me to start with that would be Bob Dwyer, because when they do their surveys at large, they're using, those prepaid. So maybe that's something we could use through them, even if we had to pay
yeah.
them or something. I don't know. There's a few different things.
We'll check the
have to be-
difference.
It may make a difference as to where they're addressed, so if they're addressed to the CMAA, which I believe they're going to be.
That was what we talked
then
about anyway.
would that not be
The best
their,
bet.
I mean, we might have to pay, but wouldn't it go under their,
Auspices and,
Yeah,
yeah,
it could be, yeah,
that might make
whatever
the most
setup they
sense.
have for
Yeah.
for postage on that.
yeah.
I don't think you can just put anybody's on there if
No.
it's not going to that
And
that
then-
organization.
And
No.
then they maybe, depending on how many pieces they get, then they could bill us or something, and we could figure it
Yeah,
out
talk
that
to
way.
him. You
Yeah,
can also talk to him about the survey. Cause you said,
how he's getting along with the sample size.
yeah, since Ethan is gonna be away,
business reply mail is what it's called.
Yeah.
is that what
Okay.
it's called? Okay.
All right, good. That way I can use the exact term when I talk to Bob. Business reply mail.
I think that's right.
Okay.
It's close to that, if that's exactly right.
It's a
But
close,
yeah,
it's close to it,
in
close to it.
just for a point of reference, the last two surveys were done the latter way. We had all the envelopes stamped over at the town hall, and we paid for that.
Yeah, if you're sure you're gonna get 100% return, that
But-
makes sense,
Yeah.
but if you're not,
You're not
doesn't
going to,
make
no.
sense.
Yeah,
so-
it was, and that was probably the most expensive part of both the surveys.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
that's true.
doing the
That's
return
true, yeah,
postage.
yeah, so.
Do we have to talk to the post office to get a barcode or something like that?
I don't know.
I've never done this before, so I don't.
I haven't either,
I
I don't know.
actually was involved in doing it once, but it was so long ago, I don't remember.
They are on our, on when we send out the newsletters, those are all, that's how we're able to get such a cheap bulk mailing rate. Cause they have,
But I'm talking about the returns.
yeah, I don't know, that's why,
Yeah.
yeah, seeing if CMAA already has something that they're doing probably is gonna make the most sense.
Probably the best, yeah, the best way,
Alright,
check, yeah, check with him and see
Here's a
what,
description for you.
Yeah.
It is business reply mail.
I should think Ethan would have some input on that too.
Yeah.
He must know what.
Yeah.
It says here, the recipient who was charged a permit fee, so you need, there's a permit fee to use it.
Okay,
And then pays the standard mailing charge for each piece that's returned. So you pay first class for what came back, but there'd be a permit fee, but I'm sure it's nowhere near what the postage that would go into the trash.
Right.
Yeah,
Would be,
that's it,
you
yeah. That's right,
pre-stamp.
yeah.
Okay. So it is, but it is the regular postage, it's not more.
It's not more, no. So
Good.
it's the permit plus.
Yeah,
And I would think that CMAA would have that permit.
I
If
would
they do,
think.
if they do these
Yeah.
surveys, if that's part of what they do, that,
Yeah. It would come back to them, not to us anyway, so.
Which
they
is what
may-
we've been
Right.
planning,
They may
yeah.
yeah, just have it go right back to them, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it's worth,
so
yeah,
right,
check,
they would be
Yeah.
the ones that would need the permit.
yeah,
If
Okay.
they don't have one, we'd have to look into,
yeah, we'd have to check
reimbursing
into
them
that,
for it,
yeah, yeah, so.
Yeah,
Okay, well, check
Yeah,
with
that-
him, and
that-
check with him and see what
Yeah.
happens, you know.
okay.
Okay, anything else with the survey? No. Well, we can't really go to the next phase of the self-assessment, but we can go to the strategic plan. They kind of fit together. I mean, we're eventually gonna get them together, but, until we get our survey and this other stuff, you know, we're kind of held up on the self-assessment thing. The strategic plan, we didn't get to meet this week, last week. Last week's storm, not this week's storm.
This week's storm messed the staff up,
Measure
last
by
week's
the
storm
storm.
messed us
That's
up.
true, yeah. So,
Lois, I have a question.
yes,
For the strategic plan, does anybody here in this room, or you or anybody else, have any idea how close we are to finishing all this?
I think
Submitting.
I think we're all wondering the same thing, Shashi. I think we all think that. I have not a clue.
Because I have yet to, I don't think I have seen a schedule or a timeline or a bunch of milestones saying, we're here, we need to do this and this and this, and then we submit for
It's
accreditation.
supposed to be done by June. And
At
this
the
is
rate we're
March. So we have April, May, and June. And that schedule she gave us, you know, with all the colored squares and everything, that is the timeline and who is supposed to be doing what each month. And of course, our part is pretty much the whole thing. So it's hard to tell where we are and where we're headed. I only know that it's supposed to be done by June. How close we are, I don't have a clue, and I don't know if anybody else does.
I don't get much, in all honesty, maybe it's just me, but I don't get much out of these papers that we're given with all these different color squares and what's supposed, I look at them like I'm supposed to, but I don't do anything about it.
And I think the objectives that we're supposed to be working on, I have a problem trying to figure out just what we're objecting to.
Well, that's it. I don't know what is required of me, to tell you the truth.
And I have the same feeling, you know, when I read through the stuff, Norma, you're not alone, I know, that,
Well, I hated to say it, because I thought, oh boy, senior
No.
moment, stupidity,
well, that's what I said,
whatever.
I think we all, it's
I'm
some,
encouraged to hear this, because I thought I was alone.
you know,
no, it's.
and so I don't know what process to take, I don't know how to, and I don't know, does the staff feel the same way?
Well, it's interesting because, you know, we had, on staff, we had talked a little bit, over the last week, because we were, until Mother Nature had other plans, we were planning on having our meeting with Kathy yesterday. And, you know, like Stacy had an interesting point. She had said she felt the objectives are clearer when you are also looking at, you know, the outcome measures and then going back, almost kind of working backwards. Because the staff materials that we were looking at, we were going to be looking at the outcome measures, which would determine our action steps. And Stacy said, you know, I'm finding this to be easier than, you know, it's almost like if we had started here, it's then easier to come up with the objectives. And so we were kind of going back and forth on that. So like a very simplistic example she gave is like if we say we had a very simple objective that we were going to attend a conference in Boston regarding dementia-friendly communities. You know, the outcome measure could be, you know, well, what percentage of the board and staff are gonna go, or things like that. So, you know, she was just saying, she finds this part easier, but she still finds it might have been easier to work backwards, but so it's hard to say, you know.
Do you have
But-
any of the volunteers working with you, or is it just staff? Some of
As-
the full-time, I mean, you know, some of the volunteers have been here for, what, 18 years, you know, and I didn't know if any of those were working with you, or just the staff is working with you?
Just the staff, but we do have some things that, you know, how in the action plan we'll be saying, like, who will be doing those
Yeah.
things. We have some things that will be falling to, you know, our volunteers,
No, but they're
but
not,
under, you
they're
know,
not in part of your group.
right.
Because we had talked
Right.
about having the Friends maybe do something with us, and I was wondering if we had brought in outside people, you know, but I think maybe we just need to keep it, the staff and the board, maybe. Not, I think we're kind of convoluted enough without bringing more people in at this point. Maybe there might come a time that we might want to involve the others, but at this particular time, I think if we just keep the two, that's why I wasn't sure if, because some of the staff, I mean, some of the volunteers have been here long enough that they're
Right.
almost like staff, you know, they've been here for such a long time. I didn't know if any of those were included in the, Yes,
I
Susan?
think that, you know, it's sort of on the vein of what you said that Stacy came at, but I find that the way that we're going about the work is more focused on what's gonna look nice as a plan versus what is it that we really think needs to be accomplished. And a lot of that's going to feed off of the survey when it comes, so June may not be any longer a reasonable time frame to get it finished. But from my point of view, I think it would be easier to sit down and say, what is it that we want to accomplish?
Exactly.
You know, we want to reach more homebound people. And then we think of how we're gonna do it. Then let's think about and our measure, then let's think about what fancy words we're gonna use
yeah.
to
Listen,
state the objective. But what I find is each time that I am in the workshop, I feel that we've only been focused on process and not on substance. And if we get substance, then we can go back and do
Process.
all of those things. Well, that really doesn't belong in the objective, it belongs down in here, or this belongs here, or whatever. But actually say, yeah, what is it that we need to accomplish and how are we going to do it? Then let's think about it. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I agree with you, Susan.
Yeah, and I feel that we almost need the results of the survey to make intelligent choices
Yes.
as to where we wanna be. My gut, maybe I'm wrong, but my gut is to just kind of suspend the strategic planning until the survey's done. If we don't get it done by June, we don't get it done by June. I don't think we're gonna get it done by June, so
I don't
I
think
don't
so
know that
either,
we
not
ought
where
to
we
lose a lot
are.
of sleep over that.
No.
But my feeling is, I don't know where we're going until I see that survey.
Me too.
You know what, I go back to my mind, and I'm trying to think, was it Hingham that we looked at in the beginning? And they had this very simplistic form, and they had this, and this, and this, and I mean, you know, just, this is what we wanna do, this is who's gonna do it, or how we're gonna be, how we're gonna do it, who's gonna do it, and by when is it gonna be done? I mean, just very simplistic, but it was very effective, because you could just pick it up, as you say, you just want the simple language, your simple things, this is what we wanna do in our plan. And yet, as I say, I agree, we're doing more processing than we are substance, you know.
What I understand from Kathy, from the different things that we've attended in the past, is that the strategic plan alone is not enough. There are 9 packages of data. And
But that's the self-assessment. Those 9
no,
things
it's
are from the
requires as part of
self-assessment.
accreditation.
Yeah, I think that we discussed this couple of months ago that, you know, that we're not ready for accreditation yet.
No, not at all.
There are a
Not at
lot
all.
of things that are required for accreditation that are not in place yet. That has to go on. And the strategic plan is just one thing that's needed for, it is not the accreditation.
Right.
So we don't have that.
So what are we going to, what are we trying to do by June?
Well, I think that with Kathy's approach, and here I am being a reviewer, I'm sorry if I'm speaking out of turn. I think that Kathy's approach is all focused on that NISC stuff. And not on what I perceive is our need, which is to have a plan and begin to execute it
Yes,
so that we can go where we want to go and adjust when we need to adjust. So we have a framework within which to work. If down the line we find that we're ready to apply for accreditation, then we cross that step. It doesn't mean that in the meantime, you know, we have the strategic plan. It doesn't mean that we're not accumulating those items or doing those things in order to meet the standards that are set out. A lot of the standards that are set out are more administrative things than
Yes.
actual work of the senior center. They're, you know, what are the best practices in going about doing these things? So you know, maybe it's time to tell Kathy. I mean, she's in our employ. We are not.
that's right.
It's not the other way around. To tell Kathy what our needs are, our point of view, and see if that is something that fits in with the work that she does, and where do we go from there?
You wanna talk to her?
Well, and I think Cliff brings up a good point too about the survey data. That might be a more logical, you know, time frame to do that and then come back.
Personally, it would help me
Me too.
feel
Oh, I
like I
agree.
understand where we're going. Now I feel like we're kinda groping around in
Yeah.
the dark
It's
and
true.
waiting for the
Yeah.
lights to be turned on.
Right, because that's what I've said at each of these meetings. What one thing can we accomplish today? What do you want the answer to? And I'll rack my brain to try to come up with an answer to that, not this, that, and all these different boxes of different colors and lots of words, but
That's what I agree with what Susan says, you know, that we need to be, just, this is what we wanna do,
Yeah.
and we have a lot of things we wanna get done. I mean, Shashi's working on the IT stuff, I mean, we're starting to do all these different things, but what we need to do is to pull that into one document and show this is where we wanna go. But we're not doing that, we're not
right,
getting
right,
that.
I think we're
We're all in agreement,
accomplishing a lot.
I think we're all in agreement
Except the
that-
strategic
of
plan
how,
put
of how we
down in
feel, I
writing.
think, you know, I think we all seem to feel the
Yeah.
same thing, and so it's probably time to change it, and see what Kathy says, see how she reacts to, and if we want to suspend it for,
Take a hiatus for a little bit.
well, I said, I don't know when we're ever gonna get the survey, I mean, that's the other
Well,
thing.
that's it.
I mean, we've been waiting 6 months now. It was supposed to be finished by Thanksgiving. We got December, January, February, March, 4 months, and we haven't even seen it as
And-
a completed, you know, I mean, so we don't know when it's ever gonna get out. So I think if you talk to this, what's his name, Dr. Dreyer, is it?
Dyer, Bob
And how
Dwyer.
important is
Bob.
it to have the strategic plan by June?
No, it isn't, no.
I mean,
That was just a
We were trying
time
to,
frame that.
well, I mean, it would be nice, but I mean,
but I don't think it's going to,
no.
Shashi?
I think I'm getting wrapped around the axle here. One is the strategic plan. The other is the accreditation and the documents and the data packages we need to get accreditation. It seems as though everything is being done and simultaneously. Am I right? I mean, this whole process includes all of the above.
And it should not, because we had, several months ago, we voted, I think, to not do the accreditation at this time. I think, was that in January or?
Yeah, no.
Around there, before that maybe, I'm
Yeah.
not sure, December or January, we voted that we would suspend the accreditation for now because we knew we were not going to get to that point by September, which was our deadline for the accreditation.
Yeah, I would say for the most part, the parallelness has been put on hold, but I think to Susan's point, Kathy is just reiterating what aspects of the strategic plan would be necessary that NISC would be looking at. So, another way would be obviously to just come up with a strategic plan and then how could we refine it to meet whatever NISC's standards are.
Right,
Right,
but we need our strategic plan for ourselves.
Regardless of
And
NISC.
we need
Right.
it now,
Right.
regardless of anything, and this is what we had decided a few months ago, that we were gonna just concentrate on the strategic plan, because that's where we need to go right
It's our
now.
priority,
Right.
yeah.
And, and as I said, the other stuff will, if it falls into place, it does, if it doesn't, then we will get to that sometime. So I think that's what we need to reiterate with Kathy, is that we just want to do the strategic plan, and if you wanna wait till after the survey is done, I have no idea when that's gonna be, that's the only thing. I'm concerned that if we wait too long, we're going to lose what we have gained, and we have gained a little bit this winter, I would say, a few things we have done. We have a new mission statement, and we have a few objectives and a few goals, and that kind of thing, so I don't wanna put it off too long, because you kinda lose part of what you're thinking. Maybe you we've missed March, maybe skip April and go into May, maybe have a meeting in May and see where we are with the survey. And, what do you think?
I might suggest that, I know that's maybe not the easiest thing to do, but I think if we did some homework and we met separately without Kathy and see how we go on that while we wait for that. There were certain things in the standards that that are really good that kind of need to be done in the meantime and can be done without the survey results. And maybe focus on what some of those things are. For example, that we're putting together a policy for the gift fund. And that's important that we have that down in writing. And while we wait to see what kinds of programs we need and what kind of expansion that we need, maybe we need to look at what does the council, the board need to do in order to put in place some of these things. And we could get a list of some of those and kind of work on, or we could work on a list of those and see what is done. I know that, my first part is I want to see programming coming out of this this strategic plan, but that may really be more in the bailiwick of the staff and and how that program is going to be expanded and all of that. Whereas the policy type things, like how is the gift fund used? What is our whistleblower policy? How do we do this? How
The bylaws.
things the bylaws,
Bylaws,
all of
yeah.
these very dry things
They're our
that I know
responsibility.
Kathy won't let us put in our strategic plan because they're not strategic. But and also, the staff maybe to be working on a marketing plan as well. But then you still need the survey results to get those done.
The marketing plan, I've been wanting to do for a long time, but we haven't even, we mention it, but then we go on to something else. And I think that's one of the most important things that we have to do. The marketing has got to be really, really, we've got to do this outreach. There's no question about it. So,
That brings up an interesting point, because the the strategic plan points to things like the marketing plan,
Right.
which do not exist.
Right,
Well, that's it.
right.
So we cannot even really complete the strategic plan until we have all these backup documents in place.
And that's why we're never gonna be done by June, because we don't have those kinds of things.
Because
You know.
even if you look at Kathy's handouts, you'll say, refer to marketing plan, or
Right.
refer to
Yeah.
this plan, refer to that plan,
And
which
it's not
don't
there.
exist.
It's not, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do we wanna do? Let's finalize our thoughts here.
Okay, I would like to meet, and at the end of the hour and a half or whatever that we meet, to feel as though that was time well spent, and I don't feel that way now about the workshop.
I
All right, would you like to meet just as a board? Just us?
Well,
And
I was
maybe-
thinking that, in fact, my mind works better if I'm given a goal to figure out for that particular day, or I mean, even under the strategic plan, if you have a certain number of goals listed, which one is the first one that we should come up with the answers for? What do we do? You know, how do we get there?
Right,
But if you're given one thing to really figure out and talk about, and who's gonna do it, and how are we gonna do it,
Yeah.
put it down in writing, one thing, not jump back and forth, and all these graphs and. And I was thinking, the board too, amongst ourselves, a meeting. But
Right.
we first have to know what we're going to try to accomplish at that meeting.
Correct.
What one thing? I mean, not to pat
Okay.
myself on the back, but at the very beginning, we were told we needed, one of the things we were told we needed mission statements, so I insisted that we
Right,
oh, no, I
have
know,
a mission
that's right,
statement.
and we did a
And
good
we
job,
did.
yeah.
Well, that's how my mind works, if
Yeah.
I'm told, what one thing are we really trying to do today?
Well, this is what I think mine too, I'm more simplistic in my thinking than what we've been put through. You know, you know, that I get confused as well.
Yeah,
I gotta say,
really.
you're not alone, Norma, and I
Yeah,
think we
because-
appreciate your speaking up.
I mean, it's awful to say, but I've been leaving these strategic meetings with a headache.
Yeah.
And feeling that I haven't accomplished anything except get a
And I
headache.
do the same, you know, then you
You know, it's
get all
awful
the
to say,
next
I shouldn't
stuff.
speak out like that,
Every
but
time I
that's.
get home, my wife says, "What'd you do today?" I wish I had
So,
Okay, all right, do we want to get together then in April, just the board,
When you
yes,
come back,
but for
when you come back.
when I come
yeah,
back?
but prior to that, could you or someone come up with one goal that we're trying to figure out and accomplish?
Well, I think we'll take the first goal that we set, and then look at the objectives.
Okay.
I don't have that
because
stuff with
I
me
don't have it
today.
in front of me, so I have no idea what that
No.
first goal would be, but if you.
And I'm trying to remember, I don't have
if
that
you-
stuff with me
But if you
today.
throw it out to me,
No,
then,
no.
then I'll,
And we will, and we'll try to put together something.
yeah.
Okay, let's do,
Why don't we see how that works?
after April 5th, I'll be free.
Let's see, April's not a good month for me.
Although you can do it without me if you want.
No, we can't.
Okay, where's my calendar? Where is my calendar?
Okay, so the first goal is expand the variety of programs, activities, and services that address the needs and interests of Shrewsbury senior and care partners.
Okay,
That's the first
that
goal.
would, one would have to wait for.
That's such a broad goal.
that will have,
Now we have to wait for
okay.
the survey.
Okay, what's the second goal then?
Increase community support for COA and other resources for seniors.
We can do that one. Let's do the second one then, because the first one, we really need the survey results for the first one.
What's the second one?
Increase community support for COA and other resources
See, that goes into your marketing plan.
for senior, yeah, yeah.
So
The first objective is to create a marketing plan.
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah,
But
Well,
then that also
But
ties
something that has to
into
be
the
done.
Friends, which is what you've been talking about too.
Yeah,
And, you know, I know we've talked about, you know, reaching out or educating or collaborating with other entities in town as well.
Well, that's the thing, that's what we, you know.
So I think that would all fall under that second one.
All right, how about the 12th of April, which is a Thursday? We seem to find Thursday afternoon the best for everybody.
Okay.
Oh.
Does that work?
Sure.
Yep.
What was the date again, I'm sorry?
What
12th.
12th.
What time are you talking about?
We'll do 1:30 to 3:30 again? Does that seem to work for
Yeah,
everybody?
okay.
April 12th.
And that's goal 2, right? So if you look through your stuff, what we have, the handouts and everything, and we'll do goal 2 and we'll see how we do with it. If we find that it doesn't work, then we'll change our method.
Right, at least we'll try.
We'll try it.
And see.
We'll try it and see. And depending then on how we do that day, then possibly in May, we could get back together with Kathy.
That'll be the day after our Council on Aging meeting in.
Yes, yes. So then we'll plan to meet in May with Kathy and then kind of go over what we've been doing and all that kind of stuff. Does that sound good? So in May, the 17th or the 3rd or the 17th, those are Thursdays.
What are we planning,
Um,
Kathy?
To
I
meet with
can't do-
either the 3rd or the 17th.
Well, I'm not sure.
Do those
how I'll-
work?
not for me, cause I have no Tuesdays.
Those are Thursdays.
Oh, I'm looking at April, I'm sorry. Third,
And that's
17th,
strategic
yeah.
planning meeting
yeah,
with Kathy.
With Kathy.
the 17th,
Want to give her both those days and see which is better for her then?
Okay.
Well, I'm probably
How
better
does
on
that
the
sound?
17th. I'm having cataract surgery.
Oh,
Middle.
when are you having that done?
Well, actually, it's the 17th of April, so I'd be
Oh.
better off waiting, by the 17th of May.
you should be okay on the 17th.
Yeah, but they're putting a stent in the eye too,
Oh,
so.
oh, they're doing more than just
yeah,
getting-
it's
Oh,
a longer
okay.
procedure.
All right, well, we'll tell Kathy that the 17th
Okay.
17th
is
of May.
preferred.
Right.
And do you want me to just shoot an email to Barbara to give her the heads up of what we're thinking
Yes, if
as
you
well?
would, yes.
Okay. So I'll check with her.
And see if that 17th is good with Kathy. If that's not good, then we can either go the 24th, probably would be better for Norma with her eyes, yeah.
Mm.
But see,
So on the 17th, we talked about 1:30.
in May,
May,
in May
It's a
17th,
Thursday.
yeah.
Yeah.
They were all Thursdays, yeah, the same,
But I
let's
said,
see,
was that gonna be an afternoon?
yeah, the same
That's right.
thing,
That's right.
1:30 to 3:30. That seems
That's
to
right,
work,
Chris Sashi-
that
Sashi-
seems to work for
My
everybody.
fault,
Yeah,
No, it
no,
isn't.
that's not a problem.
Thursdays work good for me too,
Good.
because,
because Thursday mornings I'm usually tied up.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that'll be good. I said if we all kind of look over that stuff before we get here, then we'll have just kind of an open agenda. We'll have to post that, but
Yeah.
we'll find something to, how to word it, so, so we know what we're talking about. But I would really like to look up that, and I don't know where my stuff is on the Hingham plan, but I loved the format they had. It was so readable, it was
If-
so,
If you need
Good.
to, if you go back to your email, or if you need me to resend it, I can. I had sent a link to the different senior centers, and Hingham was one of them that I had sent a link to back
Oh.
when we first started the process. It might be helpful for me to resend it anyways, just to bring Barbara up to date.
Well,
So
I said
maybe
it-
if I resend that email and then that has the links.
okay. I
everybody
just
just to
liked the
take a peek
format. I
at.
said it was so simple, And yet it was very effective in the way you could read it. I mean, very readable, very quickly. You could just look at it and see where you're going and what, you know, and easy to assess. This is where we are. This is what it's supposed to be done by. Who's doing it, or that kind of thing, you know. So,
And they're accredited too.
And they're
So
accredited,
we know
so-
NISC.
so it's acceptable, you know,
Yeah.
that process. I think it will just bring it down to something very simple.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4 kind of thing, and you pick it up, you look at it and say, oh, this is what we're doing, this is when it's gonna be done, kind of thing.
Sounds wonderful.
Well, that's what I've been waiting to do
Me
all
too.
along, and it just hasn't gotten there. I said, maybe it was just my way of
You're not
thinking.
alone.
So-
I'm glad I'm not alone.
No, you're not. I said, you have a lot of company. Okay,
Well, and in the meantime, the staff seems to be moving right along, so
okay,
we'll go ahead and I'll reschedule the staff meeting to keep working on our objectives so that, you know, that part will continue to get done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good.
And then hopefully we'll converge back in May and take
Yeah.
it from there.
okay, anything else on that? Okay. FY19 budget. I felt very
I
discombobulated
did
after
too.
Saturday. I don't know if anybody else did.
I don't have an understanding of where we are
I don't either,
on
no.
it. My two main concerns are the outreach coordinator position and the administrative assistant position, the assistant to the director. I don't know, you know, when I look at it and I see Walter in here as part-time, and then I see reinstate assistant to director position, and then I see that on here twice. Is one of those making Walter full-time? And
Yes.
there's a part-time
No,
assistant to the director, or
Oh, that
what
was
is
my
the-
understanding.
Yeah.
What is
no,
the story there?
the reason why that's listed twice is because the person would start off at one rate and then after 6 months, they bump up to the next step.
Okay, alright,
So
so
it's-
that's what it means.
It's
Oh.
26 weeks at one step,
Oh,
26
okay.
weeks at the other.
Because my understanding was we were going to do the one that was not filled this year to make Walter full-time.
Right.
And then the other half was going to be, so that's why I thought it was listed twice, because it was
Yeah,
two
and-
different positions.
So is that what we have put in for, and, or what the town manager has recommended or hasn't recommended or whatever?
Well, what
It's two, is Walter stating the outreach coordinator position, cause I don't want it to be based on a person, I want
No,
it to be
right,
based on a position.
The position,
The
yeah.
outreach coordinator position will remain part-time, and it will just be a part-time. I know I saw your notes at the end of that,
those aren't
the
mine.
enhancements.
Those are the town manager's notes. Those aren't my notes.
I thought outreach was gonna become full-time.
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah,
It was
I mean,
supposed
that's what we
to.
put in for.
but the way the town manager had us do the budget this year was, you know, to put in for our existing budget as is, and then anything above and beyond or new or different would go under these enhanced figures.
So will
So-
that, does
So
that,
we never went into the enhanced part in front of
Right,
finance.
'cause-
does that mean that these things that he has on here, and under the enhancements, cause I'm gonna assume these are his numbers, that's gonna be I think the term is warrant, a second warrant on town meeting for them to vote on the budget?
I'm not sure because what the town manager told us at the department head meeting before the finance committee hearings was that the hearings were gonna be to just discuss you know, again, the existing budgets as is, and then depending on, you know, what took place within those hearings with keeping things in each department status quo, so to speak, then they would move on to discussing the enhanced requests. So I'm not clear myself on how that process will be. Now that, you know, the hearings concluded this past Saturday, you know, I would think that we'll hear more of what the next steps would be in regard to the things that weren't included in the, you know, I'd hate to say level funding, but you know what I mean, what
Yeah,
are,
existing positions
Existing,
and
right.
programs.
I thought
Right.
we were going to ask for a full-time assistant to the director.
I think what we ideally would like is for both outreach and that
Yeah.
position to both be
And
full-time.
I thought that's what we had requested, and when I didn't see it in here, I was disappointed, you know, that, cause it says in his notes, you know, that either or, make either the outreach or the assistant full-time, it doesn't say both. you
Well,
know.
As far as funded by the town, what the town manager had said when he had met with us was that the other position, what he would like to see, whichever one did not become full-time through the town, is that the additional funding would come through the formula.
Well, we don't have the money in the formula. Unless he talked about using one of the managers, office
Right.
managers.
Right.
Transfer those monies into making one of the other, the position, one of the other ones
Correct.
full-time.
That's how I understood
But
that.
that would just put us behind in another place.
Well, the assistant to the manager would assume the responsibilities of that office manager now. If
Right.
you make that a full-time position, then the thing that office manager's doing now would become the responsibility of the assistant to the director.
Yeah, I didn't think to print it out, but did you have a chance to look at that chart that I created with the FTE columns? So it would,
Yeah.
it would give us, you know, more FTEs
Yes, it would-
if that was to occur.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the
But,
that job description for the assistant to the director is, I mean,
Oh,
how someone is going to do that even full-time is beyond, is
No, and
beyond
that's-
my
yeah.
expectations.
That's like all the
And-
job descriptions are, they're all the
And
same.
it doesn't, to me, that doesn't take the place of office coordinators and the work that they do, or, because there wouldn't be time to do a lot of that work, or the place of volunteer coordinator. I mean, those are positions that still are needed, and.
We talk about the,
And to say now that we're going to give up half a position to give half a position, when we don't really gain anything, I would prefer to endeavor to get that to be a full-time position.
through
if
the
they
town,
say
and
through
this
the
is what,
town,
this
and
is what
not-
we had requested that in the beginning.
Yes.
And that's what, you know, when I didn't see that, that's what I didn't know what happened to it in the transition, when it wasn't there. Because we had asked for two full-time, the outreach and the assistant to the director. And so, you know, and when it wasn't, that's what I said, I'm going through all this stuff, and I didn't think we discussed anything really outside of the transportation. And we did do the building, we talked about, you know, and the feasibility study is in there, which is good. That's in
But
the
there,
enhanced.
there is a second step here, is that right? I
That
mean,
that
this
was
is-
my
Yeah.
understanding at the
Yeah.
department head meeting, but what exactly that will be, I'm not clear.
Yeah, it said, who's gonna be involved in the second step?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, we've
And
taken
when
our
is that
step-
taking place?
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. As I said, I came out of there last Saturday, like,
Yeah,
just shaking my head, and I
Well,
don't
we
think I
have a
was
new
alone.
town manager, and he has a different way of doing it.
No, he does, that's
Yes,
right.
We're not
No.
quite sure of what
And-
those ways are.
And we're just, that's right, and we're just not familiar with the way he's doing it, and so we
Right,
just have to,
I would just suggest if what we get is a half-time assistant to the director, that we look at what kinds of things that are being done now by other people, could be done by the office coordinators, things like scheduling rooms and
Yeah,
and other things, so that we free up, say Stacy for her volunteer coordinator work.
yeah,
So that Sharon can work on things that are high level, require her knowledge and experience, grant
That's right.
writing, a whole bunch of other
those
kinds of
things,
things,
Right.
rather than
Payroll.
being responsible
Bills.
for making sure the drivers get out on the road in the morning, you know,
That's right.
maybe that's the transportation coordinator's job to do.
yeah,
Scheduling people for working in the office and those things. I think that once we know what we have for this year, it might behoove you, I guess would be your bailiwick, to take a look at what people are doing and, you know, who can best do those things, and are there things that, you know, just need to either fall by the wayside or be done by volunteers, you know, things like running the movie or something like that.
and I think if we get those kinds of facts, then the following budget, we can go in and say, we need a full-time person
Right.
here.
Yeah, right.
Well, the reality is, in theory, we have a half-time person, right? I mean, that was approved as of last year's
Yeah,
budget.
that's right,
Right,
that's
right.
right,
But filling it has been held in abeyance
Yes.
to see what
yeah. What-
see what the answer is to the
Yeah.
questions that still
Right.
haven't been answered.
Yeah,
Right.
so, I mean, in reality, we're getting another half-time person this year. We already got one last year. We're getting the half-time person,
Maybe,
maybe, I mean, I'm just assuming that
Yeah.
if this goes through.
yeah.
And if it does go through, then the next year, we can ask for the second half of that position to
And the-
make it full-time. And we would have some facts behind us saying, these are the kinds of things that need more help in the office. And that's, what, you know, and,
The question in my mind too is, if we get another half-time position, what is it going to be? Is it going to be to make the
Outreach
Assistant.
full-time.
Full-time. Make-
full-time, or
yeah.
is it going to be to make the outreach
well,
full-time?
the outreach should be full-time this year.
Yeah, that's what,
But it's not.
outreach is going, supposedly on paper, if it's approved, outreach will be full-time this year.
Is that what,
Well, it
that's not the
says,
way I was reading
it
this
says
stuff.
either outreach or assistant. That half position will be.
But there's a maybe to the whole thing,
Yes.
as
Oh,
far
no,
as I
it-
am
Right.
well, it
hearing
hasn't been approved, it has to be approved by the town meeting.
Right, well, but it's not on this proposal.
Are we really gonna go through all these things in a half an hour? The reason I'm asking is because
We gotta talk
I am on the
fast.
building oversight committee, which is the very
We have
last
to do
thing,
that. We have to
and it
do
will
that,
be
yeah.
our
Okay,
first report.
we'll have to just wait on the budget and see what's
Right.
gonna happen.
As
do
far
have-
as what you'd like me to do you want me to just say, to send an email to Kevin and Kristen and just say, in light of, you know, the budget hearings coming to a close on Saturday, you know, the board would just like to know what the next steps are in regard to the enhanced items and
And
our
do we
staffing.
have any role in that?
Yes,
Okay.
I think that's what we wanna know, if we have any role in it,
One
yes.
quick thing, last year's budget meeting and again this year's budget meeting, Norma made the same point, request for the space
Yes.
occupied by the town. Well, we presented it last year, we presented it this year, what happens?
Nothing, because it was never followed through.
Right. And I never brought up previously the bit about the garage area, and many on the finance committee were not aware of that. You can see.
But we brought it up
from the
last
looks of
year.
it.
But
Yeah,
now
I
that
thought.
we,
Did
now
I
that.
bring up that particular?
I thought we did last year, didn't we? Didn't we bring that
Maybe
up
I
last
did.
year?
I don't recall
Secret
last
last
year.
year.
But,
But this year you made it very specific.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I can even point out to you, actually, one of the ladies in the office pointed out to me, if you go back there, that kitchen and Beth Murray's office is so congested. I mean, you can't even get out that door if you're in a panic.
that's the
So-
building
We
oversight.
definitely need
yeah.
that space.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, well,
Yeah.
at least
We have
now we're
already-
aware of it and maybe,
That's what the building oversight committee's doing.
Yeah,
Right,
what
well,
I'm
one
trying
of
to
the
say is,
things.
We've
we brought
decided
that
just
up in
to
the
bring up
meeting,
2 small
what's supposed
things
to happen
each month
next?
if I get a chance to bring them
Nothing.
up.
Unless you follow through with it, nothing's going to happen.
Well, how do we follow through?
Well, part of the thing is just getting that space isn't gonna do us any good.
Oh, no.
It's a garage now, unless
Yeah.
we wanna park cars there, that's not doing us any good.
Well, it
There's-
will, if we are finally allotted the space, then we have to go forward and find out how much it will cost to renovate it,
Mm-hmm.
and
Right.
what will we
Redesign.
turn it
all of it.
into, but we
Yeah.
first have to.
Yeah,
They
Get
have
it.
to tell us, you can have the space. Somebody has to tell us, yes, this is yours now, go
Well,
redesign,
then we'll work on it fast.
that's right.
that's right, that's right. We'll get it
I
done,
have to
yeah.
get it first.
Okay, we don't have a transportation report again this month. Let's
No,
hope
and
next month we
I
can have
did
them
leave,
all.
I did leave a message for Cynthia, but I'm guessing
should have
she's
the-
overwhelmed
We should have the quarterly report,
for
Next
quarter
month.
3.
quarter
Yeah,
three,
because you should
plus the
have,
February and March,
right,
or January and February, excuse me, yeah. So we have the January, February, March, and then the
yeah,
whole quarter,
so
yes,
you'll
the
have
whole
quarters
quarter,
1,
yes.
2, 3.
Yeah. The outreach, we have Walter's usual. It shows he's still being busy and his numbers are higher than they have been, as we have known. So,
And I think it's been interesting, if you just, I didn't note it in the comments here, but I think him tracking those email only interactions has been interesting, because even though there are only a few each month, you'll notice so far we're up to 31 cases that he worked on strictly just through email,
Just
that
email.
weren't being counted previously.
yeah.
So it is a significant number.
Oh, and it's gonna increase, I think. I think
Yeah.
it's, more and more people.
So I don't know what it will be at by the end of the year, but I'm guessing it might be around 40. I
Oh, I
mean,
would think so.
he only needs 9 more to hit 40. So I think that's a significant
Yeah,
statistic.
4 months, so he's gonna get
Yeah.
more than 9, I think, sure, yeah, so. Okay, new initiatives? No, we don't have anything more about the computers.
Well, the thing with the computer is, you probably realize by now that the important thing is for it to be reliable. Whatever we put out there has to work rock solid. You can't have stuff fail on them, because then they'll lose interest. I mean, this email thing with the newsletter is a prime example. So what I'd like to do is to write a requirements document saying, this is what the system should do. I'm gonna do it. But then, when we get the intern, I will give that to him as a thing. The way the library works, I was talking to Priya in the library, and she said that the bulk of it is under the control of Selco, but there are areas of local information that they can go in and change. For instance, there must be specific areas that somebody might have to, might want to update, that should not require any changes. All we have to do is to post a document at a particular location, and the website is automatically updated. That sort of thing. So anybody has any input, I'd be the other thing we need to do is to make sure that this intern, after we got this done and deployed, we have to come up with a what I call a software description plan, so that in case somebody else takes over, he goes back to school and now somebody else is going to maintain it.
Right.
How is this thing played together? What are the pieces that, all that kind of stuff. So I have some work to do. But beyond that, in parallel with that is this public computer security issue that I need to talk to the library about, that John Covey wants to be in on. Now, if anybody here wants to help me out here, you're definitely welcome. Who would like to attend the meeting if I set it up? Would either of you want to be there? You would both
Yeah.
want to be there?
I would,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so I will try and set up a meeting with John and somebody from the
Yeah.
library.
You can let me know when it is, if
Yeah,
I'm,
it probably will be after April 5th.
Maybe not, maybe you can get in next week, I don't know. So, let's see, yeah.
And address security issues. That can be done in parallel with this other document that I'm trying to put together that'll describe what it is we want this senior-friendly page to look like.
Good. That sounds good.
Right?
Do an excellent job, Shashi.
I'll do
Excellent.
the best I can.
Yeah.
Ames, please.
Okay, and the website too.
Yeah.
The coffee machine is working somewhat. Pretty
It-
good coffee.
Yeah, I had a sample.
Yeah, good.
So it's
Good.
here, and we just are waiting for the coin op part to be installed on the machine, and then we'll have signage as far as, you know, how it will work as far as getting your cup and
Yeah.
so, but it's finally coming
Yeah.
together.
Sound system?
Last I knew, the person from the school department was working with their representative that they usually deal with versus the person that came out here. And we're working to get a new quote.
Okay.
So they think it'll be significantly less.
Do we have a time frame on that?
No, I only know based on what the person from the school department said and what Bob Cox said that they don't think that we'll need to put up any money for it out of our budget or the FY19 budget. They think that they'll be able to cover it under the current budget, which I would think by default would mean that it would have to be resolved by June 30th because everything would have to be
Let's hope
purchased
so.
under the current fiscal year.
We had hoped like by last
Well, it
September,
sounds
but.
good, let's hope.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
good. How about the blinds? Are those all set?
I just had to fiddle around with them for the movie on Friday, and they seemed fine. But I don't know if they actually replaced the head. It looked. I
It
didn't
looks
see.
all right, doesn't it? I was
Yeah,
thinking it's all
everything
right.
looked
What are you
fine.
gonna
And it
do?
works?
Yeah, everything slid over. So I think it's been
Don't-
replaced. But
Don't question that.
but I,
long
if
as
it
it
has
works.
been, I wasn't told, but it looks like it
Yeah,
was.
I think it's all right.
So
Yeah.
I used
Signage?
them.
since we met last, no updates there.
We didn't get samples of the fonts you were gonna send out.
No. So let me try to get those out to you.
Okay. Okay, I wanted to get to the building oversight. The Friends, did you have anything, Susan, with the Friends?
Only what I spoke of before, about the Friends wanting, more information before they commit to raising any
Yes.
funds for a van. Secondly, the annual meeting for the Friends will be at a luncheon on May 16th. And also, the craft fair and flea market that were scheduled for April 14th and May 12th have been canceled.
Oh, that's right, okay. Okay, thank you. I think you all, I sent all these to you, you have copies of these?
Yes.
Okay. The Building Oversight Committee has two requests for us. One was about the towel dispensers.
We decided as a group that we would only present 2 requests
Each month.
rather
Okay,
than
yeah,
pile you with all of
Yeah.
them at once, with the hopes that each of the 2 could really be looked into and maybe
yeah.
give us the answer to.
Well, the towel dispensers in the restrooms, I sent this on to Bob Cox.
I'm laughing about that, because obviously it did, and it's been replaced. I went in there before I came to this meeting.
Oh,
So it's been
It's
replaced,
been replaced.
and on the front of it, it shows that it's motion. So I put my hands under it to get
is
the
that
paper
is that the one against the wall?
Yes,
That's the one, we didn't want it against the wall,
well, it's against the wall, but it's a new,
a new kind,
but listen, so it's a motion.
yeah.
So I'm putting my hands under it, it doesn't work. I hit the side, it doesn't tell you to hit the side, I hit the side of it and a paper towel comes out. All right, I ripped it off and I thought, now the motion will work. Again, nothing. I hit the side and a paper towel comes out.
See, what it is there's a little disc there, you're supposed to go in front of it. So what's happening is, on your way to the side, you're actually going over the disc.
Oh, you have to go in front of it?
Yeah, on the
front.
right-hand
Yeah.
corner, in the bottom there's a little
Oh,
round thing.
because that's different
That's
from
your
other
sensor.
places that I've
Exactly.
used, that I've always gone underneath.
The problem is there's 3 or 4 different kinds, and
Oh,
they all work
my
a little differently,
senior mind.
so,
We
yeah.
need a
So-
sign, we
Yeah.
need a sign then on it to tell it what to do. Susan?
I think one of the issues with the, with the,
Yeah.
with the paper towel holder was where the placement is.
Yes.
Not
Exactly.
because it is not ADA compliant at the height at which it is, but that it's in the way, and it also leaves an opportunity for a wet floor as someone goes from the wet floor. So I think that we should go a step further and make a request of the town manager that those be properly positioned.
Well, I think we'll let the building oversight committee do it. I will tell Lillian, I will.
Ask her to,
And tell her to, because we got the new, I mean, it's working,
Okay, but I wasn't worried.
no, but they did not move it, and
Yeah.
also here it says the present location creates a bumping hazard for mobility,
Right.
you know, so it says in the thing
Right.
what we wanted
We're-
done.
We're halfway.
but, well, there
But it's
was,
still foolish to go across with wet hands and
right,
get the towel, and then you have to go back over near the sink to get rid of the towel. I mean,
yeah, I think that one of the issues is relying on the letter of ADA compliant to be a sufficient answer to where that is. And that's not correct. Just last month, and it was as a result of the Building Oversight Committee startup that I was there, when it was pointed out that there was no automatic door opener on the front door of Town Hall. And that, but there is a ramp there. So when we had a meeting over there, I decided to go in, park in a handicap space, and go in through the door over by Selco. And it was a long, long distance,
Oh, it is.
which at the time I was barely able to manage for myself. It was brought up at, I mentioned it when the town manager came to speak to the Monday afternoon current events group. And he said that there will be an opener on there by town meeting. But one of the members of the Building Oversight Committee had taken it upon himself to go over to Town Hall and speak to the manager. And that same person had tried before, and his response that he always got was, it's ADA compliant. So I think that we need to be looking at what really are the needs of mobility impaired people, seniors or
Yeah.
whatever, in getting around. And ADA compliant isn't necessarily
Isn't necessarily
the best.
what you wanna use, yeah, Yeah.
What fits the need of seniors the best.
that's right, yeah.
Right, well, I think it's basically a minimum standard,
Yeah.
you know, to be able to be accessible.
so who is gonna get after Bob Cox again?
Lillian,
Okay,
I'm gonna email Lillian and tell her what our discussion was today. And tell her, you know, to go back and to write up another request
to
emphasizing the
move
fact,
that, right.
to move it right. And so,
And
I
I
should-
understand it's
and
the
I will-
same in the men's room too, because.
yeah, it's the
Yes.
same,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
same
the
in
same
both,
situation.
same in both
Yeah.
restrooms, yes, so, yeah. Okay, the second request, she sent some pictures here showing these cushions, where they are, they're stored, or they're being used, and, you know, I don't know if you wanna look at any of these, and, because it's what she described or the committee described, and the patio chair cushions are freestanding in a corner, side B room, and, they're used by the paint class, and they have all kinds of, so they should be stored and this is what their suggestion is, an airtight, waterproof wheeled container. And they could be even in the garage maybe,
Say, can you
Or in the-
garage?
yeah.
You might use that.
or in the shed out there, or someplace, they should be stored, they're getting ruined here. So when spring comes and move them outside, you
I
know.
would think that in the summertime, I mean, if they were stored in a, when the patio would be in use, if they're stored in a locked, when the place isn't open, a locked patio box, that they would be dry and clean and accessible and not in the way, in the hallway. You've seen
I've
them
seen
in
it.
real life.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be an idea. I'll tell her that was our suggestion, a locked patio box.
Yeah, I mean, it would need to be locked, it would require, if someone wanted to use the patio, getting the,
Well, you don't
The
think the
box
cushions
unlocked.
should be
Well,
put on the
they
chairs?
put them out
to
in
look at?
in the summertime,
Oh,
in the
yeah.
springtime.
Well,
if it's good weather.
well, what we typically had done is we had some big plastic storage containers,
Yeah.
and we would have them way at the far end,
Yeah.
near the door. So if you wanted to go sit on the patio, you just grab
Yeah.
a cushion and bring it out with you, and then bring it back in.
But what happened to those big containers?
I don't know. I don't
That's
know.
what we're
'Cause nobody
wondering.
paid any
They're not in the
attention, yeah.
shed with anything else in them?
We've never stored them in the shed. We've usually just kept them in the hallway or sometimes into the storage closet.
Yeah.
Well, their suggestion was an airtight, waterproof, wheeled container.
Yeah,
So they could be
they weren't in a
moved.
wheeled container previously.
So the attractive
container.
container could hold all the cushions, have a lock, and be relocated to the patio area in the spring.
Yeah.
Until then, those cushions need to be placed in a secure area.
Yeah.
So I don't know
Off-season.
who is responsible for doing this.
I guess that's something, again, we could ask Bob, because we've always just had the
Who owns
containers.
What about getting the container
Who
though?
owns them?
Who
The f-
owns them?
The Friends purchased them back when we
So
opened.
it belongs to
The
us?
senior center, yeah.
Should we involve Bob Cox in it at all?
I don't think that, I mean, I think we'd need to see about getting the, that container as described, and, off-season, we would store the container somewhere else, but on the patio when it's the season for using the patio or nearby the patio. I don't know that storing them in a container like that in the hallway is really the best idea, because it narrows that hallway quite a bit.
Yes.
And I don't like the looks of it
And,
when they
yeah.
store things in that
And
hallway
it's far
anyway.
outside, and of course you don't want them to walk away, so it would need to be locked. But on a daily basis, unless it's a rainy day, if someone could, unlock the box if people need to take themselves, or as was mentioned, maybe even put them out to be more inviting to people
Well,
to
that's
use
it.
the patio.
Yeah. So,
There is a storage room here, but it's full of stuff. It's got the hand truck and it's got the, all the stuff, the projection equipment. If that place were to be organized a little better, perhaps we could fit it in there. You know what I'm talking about? It's a locked room.
Yeah, that's where
Karen
the-
has the key.
That's where the containers have been some years. Some years they were in there,
in the
some,
closet off the dining room.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
plenty-
No,
I
that's got
think
to be cleaned out.
That got to be
That's,
straightened out.
that's got to be a
Have you
mess
seen
again.
that lately?
Oh yeah, I go in
Yes.
there once a week.
Oh.
I was gonna say, I'm surprised, a certain church that I know of, if we ever stored things in the hallways, that
Yeah.
we were told during our building inspection.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
cause the hallways need to be clear, there's the building code defines
Yes.
the width of a hallway.
Mm-hmm.
And if you put anything in it that restricts that, you're out of
That's right,
compliance.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, from that point of view too, I had never thought of that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I will report back to Lillian, who's chair of the committee. And,
So is someone going to purchase a container for them?
I'll see what your committee wants to do.
Well, we don't,
Well, if you want, If that's the decision, then you go to the Friends and you ask for funds.
Oh, we don't just bring things out, present it to the Council on Aging Board, and they decide who's.
No, it's your
It-
committee, it's your committee that's going to do that. So I just
Oh,
report back to
I
them
don't
what
think
the,
the committee was ever aware of that. I
Well-
think the committee just figured we would look around, come up with
No.
these thoughts, and then we have to take care of them.
well, we'll find out how it go about, but you have to make the decision on what you wanna do. The committee makes that decision, because we've given you several options. And so you decide which direction you wanna take. And then if you wanna purchase something, you fill out a request for funds form from the Friends. Because they bought these in the first place.
Right, okay.
So then you go to them and say, we want a box, a patio box, a lock box. And you look it up and you find out how much it's gonna cost and that, blah, 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 that.
Okay, so we almost don't have to present these thoughts to the COA board.
Well,
We should go directly to the Friends,
No, you come to the board first.
and then you tell us to go to the Friends.
I go back to your chair, Lillian,
Okay,
and tell Lillian what the board has done and what we
Okay.
suggest. And then you decide, your committee decides what they wanna do and how they wanna handle it.
Yeah, cause as a board committee, the reporting would have to come back to the
Yeah,
board.
you're a board committee, yeah, so,
okay.
okay, anything? Tell me
So
if
that
there's any.
means once you come here, we tell you where to go.
Oh, you mean we're gonna finish early today?
No, yeah, 1 minute.
That
7
clock is
minutes.
fast, that clock is
Oh,
fast.
okay,
Yeah, it's about 5 minutes fast at least, yeah, so.
okay.
Is there anything else to come before the board today?
I would still like to know the process of getting that space released,
Oh,
the garage.
they have to have another place to put the stuff.
Yeah.
No, but once we formally request it, then they can come back and tell us what they want. But have a process for requesting that we should have that space back?
No, we'll look into it. We'll find out what the process is.
Okay,
And
that's
again, I
fine.
think that would go back to the head of public buildings because he oversees the buildings. And he would oversee all the equipment that's in there.
You want me to, I'll email
Well,
Bob Cox
Yeah,
and
I
ask
mean,
him
we should have something
the process.
saying that we would like to have that, tell us what you need and when you can do it.
Process for getting
Yeah.
custody of the room.
Yes,
Okay,
ownership and use of the room.
At the Finance Committee, I got the impression, once I brought it up, that we would kinda have to wait until a new police station
Well, this is what
or
I
this or
thought.
that was built,
Well,
and they would
we don't
build
have that
on.
in writing from anyone.
but
That
somebody
would
else
avoid-
said something, all they have to do is put a portable garage thing down, you know, one of those metal things like that. Down
that's
here
a
in some
good idea.
empty
Well,
land.
and that's what they were looking into
Oh, I didn't-
before the senior center came online. So before, when we were still at Parker Road, that's what they were looking into, putting behind the town hall in this
Oh.
space on the side of the parking lot. And apparently, you know, that all got scrapped once we started building, you know, the plans for the senior center, because then it was like, oh, well, we could just roll it into the senior center plans and kill two birds with one stone instead of having to build a separate structure, you know, with dealing with electricity and, you know, it could just be part of the building that's being built here. And it was adequate at the time, but obviously, as we've outgrown the building, you know, now it's an issue again. But
Good. Okay, anything else?
I move that we adjourn.
I second that.
Second? We are adjourned.